The school gym buzzed with anticipation that it was the day of the annual History Assembly at Jefferson High, a tradition where students showcased stories from America's past. Among the crowd stood Jalen McCoy, a quiet but bright 15-year-old black student known for his sharp mind and calm demeanor. As the principal welcomed everyone, Jalen's heart raced. Today, he planned to speak up, not just as a student, but as a young voice demanding truth. The assembly started with several performances, some joyful, others somber. But Jalen knew the real test was yet to come, when the sheriff, a man known for his strict authority and intimidating presence, took the stage to present the official version of history. Jalen felt a knot in his stomach. The sheriff's words were rehearsed but glaringly inaccurate, especially about the civil rights movement. Jalen's hand twitched, struggling to stay still. Then, during a moment when the sheriff claimed the protests were unnecessary disturbances, Jalen whispered, loud enough for those nearby to hear, "That's not true. They were fighting for justice and equal rights." The sheriff's eyes snapped to Jalen, his face hardening. The gym fell silent. "Is that so?" the sheriff sneered, stepping down from the stage. The tension was palpable as all eyes fixed on Jalen. Before anyone could react, the sheriff's hand shot out, a sharp slap across Jalen's face. Gasps filled the room. Some students froze, others whispered urgently. Jalen's cheek burned, but he stood tall, refusing to back down. Just then, the doors to the gym swung open. In walked the U.S. Secretary of Defense, a tall figure known nationwide for championing equality and justice. Clapping slowly, deliberately, she broke the silence. Her presence shifted the room's energy. From shock and fear to hope and courage, the U.S. Secretary of Defense's slow, deliberate clapping echoed through the silent gym. Every eye turned to her, the most powerful woman in the room, standing tall and resolute. She wore a calm expression, but her presence radiated authority and compassion. "Bravo," she said, her voice steady yet filled with conviction. "Young man, you spoke truth today, and that courage deserves respect, not violence." The sheriff looked stunned, his bravado suddenly faltering under her unwavering gaze. For a moment the tension thickened, as if the entire school held its breath. Jalen, still holding his cheek, felt a surge of unexpected strength. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about standing up to injustice. Right here, in front of his peers, teachers, and community leaders. The secretary walked toward Jalen, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You reminded us all what it means to be brave," she said. "Thank you." Suddenly, whispers grew louder among the students. Phones appeared, capturing the moment, a powerful image of justice confronting oppression. The principal, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward nervously. "Behavior is unacceptable," she said, looking at the sheriff. "We will be investigating this incident immediately." The sheriff, now visibly shaken, glanced around, realizing the weight of the moment. His slap was no longer just a personal attack. It had become a symbol of a deeper issue, one that was about to be exposed. Outside the gym, news crews began arriving, alerted by students and teachers posting videos online. The story was spreading fast, igniting conversations beyond the school walls. Jalen's classmates, who had once been hesitant, now gathered around him in support, their faces a mix of admiration and resolve. The assembly had started as a typical school event, but it had transformed into a defining moment, a powerful stand against injustice that no one could ignore. The morning after the incident, the school was buzzing with conversations. Students, teachers, and staff replayed what had happened, some in disbelief, others in quiet support. Jalen's phone was flooded with messages, some from friends, others from strangers who had seen the video online. His story was spreading rapidly. At school, the atmosphere was tense. Some students whispered about the sheriff's actions, while others expressed pride in Jalen's courage. The teachers tried to maintain calm, but it was clear that this event had shaken everyone deeply. The principal called an emergency staff meeting. "We must address this head-on," she said, her tone firm. "Our priority is the safety and well-being of every student." Meanwhile, local community leaders began weighing in. Many expressed outrage over the sheriff's conduct, demanding accountability. Others urged patience and calm, emphasizing the need for a fair investigation. News stations picked up the story, and social media exploded with videos and posts supporting Jalen. Hashtags like #JusticeForJalen and #EndPoliceViolence trended nationwide. People across the country shared their own stories of facing injustice and called for change. Jalen's family, once worried about the backlash, found themselves overwhelmed by support from strangers. The local NAACP chapter reached out to offer legal advice and emotional support. The sheriff, meanwhile, faced mounting pressure. His department issued a brief statement defending his actions, but it did little to calm the growing storm of criticism. Jalen's classmates, inspired by his bravery, organized a peaceful rally to show solidarity. Flyers were passed around the school, and teachers discreetly helped students plan. Even some parents who had been silent now spoke out, some shocked by the sheriff's behavior, others proud of their children standing up for what was right. The school assembly, meant to celebrate history and achievements, had instead sparked a larger conversation about race, power, and justice, one that was far from over. As the tension in the community escalated, news of the incident reached Washington, D.C. Among those who took notice was the U.S. Secretary of Defense, a powerful figure known for standing against injustice. Unexpectedly, during a follow-up school assembly, the secretary arrived at the school. The gymnasium fell silent as she entered, her presence commanding attention. Cameras captured the moment live, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. Walking confidently to the stage, she began to speak. "I am here today not only as a government official but as a citizen who believes in justice and equality for all." Her words resonated deeply with the crowd. She praised Jalen for his courage and dignity under pressure, emphasizing that no child should ever be subjected to violence or humiliation, especially in a place of learning. Then, to everyone's surprise, she started clapping slowly and deliberately, encouraging the entire audience to join her. The gymnasium filled with applause, a powerful statement of solidarity. Her presence shifted the narrative. What had started as a local incident now had national attention and backing. The secretary's support sent a clear message: the country was watching, and injustice would not be tolerated. The sheriff's department now faced scrutiny from federal authorities. The local police chief announced an internal review, while the secretary hinted at potential federal investigations. Jalen, still stunned, felt a surge of hope. The secretary's visit was more than symbolic. It was a promise that his story mattered. Parents and teachers felt a new wave of confidence that change could come, while students realized their voices could echo far beyond their school walls. The event marked a turning point. What seemed like a personal struggle had become a catalyst for nationwide discussion about race, authority, and respect. This was just the beginning of a fight that would ripple across communities and government corridors alike. The moment the Secretary of Defense entered the assembly and started clapping, someone in the crowd captured it all on their phone. Within minutes, the video was uploaded to social media. It didn't take long for the clip to go viral. Millions of people across the country watched Jalen's calm bravery, the sheriff's harsh slap, and the secretary's powerful response unfold in one breathtaking sequence. Hashtags like #JusticeForJalen and #ClapForChange started trending on Twitter and Instagram. Influencers, activists, and celebrities began sharing the video, adding their voices to the growing conversation about racial injustice and police conduct. News outlets picked up the story, airing it during prime time. Interviews with Jalen, his family, and community leaders followed, giving depth and human faces to the headline. Jalen's story became a symbol of resilience and courage for young people everywhere, especially Black youth who saw themselves reflected in his struggle and dignity. At school, students talked openly about race and equality for the first time in years. Teachers held special sessions to discuss respect and peaceful protest. Meanwhile, the sheriff's department was flooded with calls demanding accountability. Social media users dug into the sheriff's past, uncovering previous complaints and allegations that had been ignored. The governor announced a formal investigation, promising transparency and justice. Meanwhile, politicians on both sides of the aisle debated police reform, using Jalen's story as a critical example. Jalen's family, once fearful of backlash, now received overwhelming support from strangers nationwide, but with the spotlight came pressure and threats, too. Jalen's parents worried about his safety and the toll the attention might take, yet, Jalen remained strong, inspired by the thousands standing behind him. The viral explosion wasn't just about a moment, it was about sparking a movement, and the country was listening. As Jalen's story spread nationwide, the pressure on everyone involved grew heavier by the day. The sheriff found himself in the eye of a storm. facing not only public outrage but intense political scrutiny, the sheriff's office issued a statement defending their actions, claiming the slap was justified to maintain order. But the public wasn't buying it. Protesters gathered outside the sheriff's headquarters, demanding his resignation. Meanwhile, Jalen's family struggled with the sudden attention. Their quiet life was now filled with reporters, social workers, and lawyers. His mother worried about the emotional toll on Jalen, but he remained determined to speak out. School administrators called an emergency meeting. They recognized the importance of addressing racial tensions but feared unrest could disrupt the learning environment. Still, many students demanded the school take a clear stand in support of Jalen. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, who had clapped during the assembly, publicly praised Jalen's courage in a press conference. She called for nationwide dialogue on race, respect, and policing in schools, urging leaders to listen to young voices. Politicians began using Jalen's story as a rallying point, some promising sweeping reforms, others downplaying the incident as a misunderstanding. Social media continued to explode with debates, memes, and calls for justice. Yet amidst the noise, Jalen's message remained clear and calm: equality, respect, and peaceful change. Jalen received countless letters and messages from young people thanking him for standing up. Some offered support, others shared their own painful stories, but threats and hate messages also poured in, forcing his family to consider security measures. Despite everything, Jalen knew this was only the beginning of a larger fight, one that would require strength far beyond one moment in a school auditorium. The country was watching. And Jalen was ready. The country was now sharply divided. Jalen had become a symbol of courage and resistance for many, but also a target of fierce criticism by others. Talk shows, news anchors, and social media platforms buzzed with heated debates, some defending the sheriff's actions while others condemned them as blatant racism. In Jalen's hometown, tensions ran high. Some community members organized peaceful vigils in support of Jalen and to call for justice. But others felt the incident had been blown out of proportion and warned of potential unrest. At school, the atmosphere was tense. Teachers struggled to maintain calm, while students formed groups either supporting Jalen or the sheriff. Jalen faced whispers and stares but also new friendships from classmates who admired his bravery. The sheriff remained silent publicly but was reported to be under immense stress. His supporters argued that discipline was necessary, but many questioned the use of physical force against a student. Politicians seized the moment. Civil rights leaders called for reforms to how law enforcement interacts with students, pushing for policies that would prevent such incidents. Some lawmakers proposed new legislation on school policing, sparking fierce political battles. The U.S. Secretary of Defense continued her vocal support, speaking at rallies and on national television about the importance of confronting systemic racism. Social media became a battleground. Hashtags like #JusticeForJalen trended worldwide, but so did counter-movements defending the sheriff. Online threats and misinformation spread rapidly, adding complexity to the situation. Amidst the chaos, Jalen remained focused. Interviews and public appearances were emotionally draining, but he insisted on using his platform to call for understanding and change, not anger or division. His family rallied around him, proud but worried about the emotional toll. Jalen's story had sparked a national conversation, but the real work was just beginning. The question loomed: could a country so divided find common ground? The U.S. Secretary of Defense, Elaine Carter, knew the incident at the school assembly was more than just a local controversy. It was a national crisis exposing deep wounds in American society. Determined to turn the moment into a catalyst for change, she stepped into the spotlight with a bold plan. Elaine held a press conference that captured the world's attention. Standing firmly beside Jalen and his family, she condemned the sheriff's actions unequivocally. What happened at that school is unacceptable in a nation that prides itself on justice and equality, she declared. We will not tolerate abuse of power, especially against our youth. But she didn't stop there. Elaine announced the launch of a federal task force dedicated to reforming how law enforcement interacts with students in schools nationwide. The task force would include educators, civil rights advocates, police officials, and youth representatives to ensure every voice was heard. The secretary also promised increased funding for training programs focused on de-escalation, cultural sensitivity, and mental health support within schools. "Our children deserve to learn in safe, supportive environments free from fear," she said. This announcement electrified supporters and ignited hope across the country. Jalen felt a surge of pride but also understood the weight of responsibility now resting on his shoulders. He was no longer just a boy who spoke up, he was becoming a symbol of a movement demanding justice. Opponents, however, criticized the secretary's involvement as political grandstanding. Conservative voices argued that the sheriff was simply enforcing discipline, accusing the government of overreach. Despite the backlash, Elaine remained steadfast. She visited Jalen's school personally, meeting with students, teachers, and local law enforcement to emphasize collaboration over conflict. Her leadership brought renewed focus to the crisis. The nation watched closely, wondering if real change could finally emerge from the turmoil. For Jalen, the journey was far from over. But with powerful allies by his side, the possibility of a better future felt closer than ever. As news of the Secretary of Defense's involvement spread, Jalen's town became a battleground of opinions. Local residents, once quiet about the incident, now voiced strong reactions, some in support, others in fierce opposition. At the school, the atmosphere was tense. Students were divided. Some admired Jalen's courage, seeing him as a hero standing against injustice. Others whispered that he had brought unwanted attention and trouble. Teachers struggled to maintain calm, fearing the unrest might disrupt learning. Parents gathered at heated town hall meetings. Supporters of Jalen demanded accountability for the sheriff, calling for his suspension and reforms in school policing. They shared personal stories of racial bias and urged leaders to listen. On the other side, many defended the sheriff, arguing he was trying to keep order. They accused the media and politicians of blowing things out of proportion and undermining local authority. Some claimed Jalen was disrespectful and deserved the slap. Local officials found themselves caught in the middle. The mayor called for unity and promised an independent investigation. But the sheriff doubled down, refusing to apologize or step down, framing himself as a victim of political attacks. Social media exploded with hashtags for and against Jalen. Videos, memes, and debates flooded timelines, polarizing the community further. The school's reputation took a hit, with some families threatening to withdraw their children. Jalen felt the pressure mounting. He had hoped his words would bring change, but now the town was fractured. His family worried about his safety and well-being, yet, amidst the division, a small but growing group of students and teachers organized peaceful rallies, promoting understanding and dialogue. They believed education was the key to healing. Jalen realized this was more than a personal fight, it was a test of his community's values. The question hung in the air: could the town overcome its differences and embrace justice, or would fear and anger deepen the divide? The investigation into the sheriff's actions was swift and thorough. Evidence from the school's security cameras, witness testimonies, and the viral video made it impossible to ignore the truth. The sheriff was placed on administrative leave pending further review. Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of Defense personally visited the school. Standing beside Jalen, she praised his bravery and spoke about the importance of standing up against injustice, no matter how difficult. Her presence gave hope to many and sent a clear message that such behavior would not be tolerated anywhere. The school board announced new policies to prevent racial profiling and excessive use of force by school officials. Diversity and sensitivity training became mandatory for all staff, and students were encouraged to participate in open forums to discuss race, history, and equality. Jalen became a symbol of courage and change, receiving invitations to speak at events and schools nationwide. His message was clear: respect and understanding start with listening and standing up for what is right. The town slowly began to heal. The peaceful rallies grew in size and influence, fostering a spirit of unity. Parents, teachers, and students worked together to rebuild trust and create a safer, more inclusive environment. Jalen's family, though proud, reminded him to stay grounded and focused on his education and future. They knew his journey was just beginning. As the sheriff faced legal and professional consequences, many hoped this incident would be a turning point, not just locally, but across the country. It sparked nationwide conversations about race, authority, and youth empowerment. Jalen looked out at the crowd during a school assembly months later. the same place where his voice first challenged injustice. The applause felt different now, filled with respect and hope. The slap that once shocked a community had ignited a movement. Jalen's story proved that one voice, even that of a young boy, could shake powerful institutions and inspire real change. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the fight for justice and equality was far from over, and Jalen was ready to lead it. If Jalen's story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video to spread awareness about standing up against injustice. Comment below with your thoughts or experiences, and let's keep this important conversation going. Make sure to like and follow for more powerful stories that inspire change. Together, we can make a difference. What would you do if you were in Jalen's shoes? Let me know in the comments.